Good evening, folks.
Is Jeanette on?
Doesn't look like it.
Did you see why A and C are the same?
Yeah, so anybody hear me?
I can hear
I
you.
can.
No,
One,
Mike's not.
2, 3, 4. Not sure who administrator is here. So we have, let's see, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Can people
And
hear
we
me?
have, hey Ray, we have Rob Tuttle sitting in the office with me, so he's joining tonight's meeting.
Can you folks hear me?
I can hear you, Jeanette.
Okay, thank you for answering, Laurie. Thank you.
Is Matt Bruno on?
Wait a minute, will you?
Oh, I need to write down. what-
Wait a minute, will you? I haven't adjourned the meeting yet.
Yeah, but I need to write their
I
name.
have not started the meeting
I
yet.
know that.
I will announce the people that are here when I start the meeting.
I'm gonna leave this door open, honey, in case she wants to come in and out. Oh, okay.
This meeting is probably gonna go for quite a while. God, I hope not.
All right, seems that we have a quorum. I'm gonna go ahead and get this meeting started. This is a meeting of the Canterbury, or can you all hear me?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Am I streaming the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, very good. It appears that we have myself, Jeanette, that's 2, Mike Lee's 3. Matt Bruno is 4. Rob, who's 5. And Jason's in the room here. And myself. All right, so let me do a roll call. Board members, please say your name for the record. I'll start off. Ray Sulich.
Jeanette Kilday?
Mike Lee.
Matthew Bruno.
Howler Tuttle.
No, the other one.
I don't think Matt, Matt sign in. All right, so that's just to make sure here. 1, 2, 3. Over 1.
Ray, can you check the waiting area? Jason says he's waiting to be admitted, maybe?
I'll let this thing settle down here for a minute. But 1, 2, 3 is me. 4, Matt.
Rob Tuttle.
Rob. 5. Is Pat Tracy here yet? Did Pat say she was coming to the meeting?
I think so.
Okay. All right, so all members that are currently on the line who have sounded off for the roll call are seated. That gives us 5 regular members and 1 alternate seated. All right, so number 1 on the agenda, call the special meeting of Canterbury Board of Finance to order. It's 7:03 p.m., June 3rd, 2020. We have established a quorum. Approval of minutes. And we're not gonna approve minutes today. We'll do all of them probably next meeting. Written communications there. I just uploaded to the Canterbury website, the town website. Let me get a window open here. Somewhere in here. I just uploaded a file and I'll show you where it's at. Boards and commissions, Board of Finance, and if you scroll down, you'll see a whole list of files. This is the one, this is going to be our correspondence. It's listed as Board of Finance. Okay, it's listed as budget letters, Canterbury budget, gmail.com. That's of, I think, about 4 this afternoon. They were coming in pretty steadily. But I had to scan them in and get them online. So this is what we have. And
Are you gonna put them up, Ray, so we can read them, or does
Um,
it not affect tonight's?
I can, but that's kind of difficult to do it that way. What I was thinking about doing is have everybody go to the town website there and grab the file and go through them. And we can, I think there's 33 pages, but they're not all, border to border text. So shouldn't take that long to read them. So what I'd like to do is to go ahead and recess the board for, I don't know, what's a good amount of time? 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, for 10 minutes for everybody to take a look at them. I'll scroll through them here. I've looked at them already, but I'll kind of scroll through it by pace, and we'll join back up when I get to the end of the, and then somebody's over driving us again. Yes, that is Mr. Connolly. Please mute your microphone, sir. All right, so I'll go through this at my pace. Everybody else, if they'll go to the town website and click right there, you can see all the letters that I pulled down this afternoon. So I'll see you all at 7:16.
Ray,
Karen, hold on a second. All right, can everybody hear me?
Yes?
Okay, just to let you know, I don't think Zoom is allowing any additional members into this meeting. Pat just called us and she's on the phone. She's gonna be calling in. So I'm not sure how to communicate that to folks. That, obviously you can't tell people that can't get in that they can't get in. I think, for one sake, we have no votes scheduled for today. So folks can certainly catch up via the video. I'm not sure what the limitations of Zoom are. I thought it was 100, but we're nowhere near that. I think we're at 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 people, I think. 25, no,
Bye.
25. 1, 2,
Just use-
3,
just-
4, 5,
Just use your phone.
30, 35,
Yeah.
or 35 people, so.
Yeah, and it goes just right to the webinar. All right. Bye.
And as I said previously, we'll, when we come back into session, we'll discuss what we can do. All right, it's 13 after 7. Hope you had an opportunity to go through the list or the emails. Can everybody hear me again?
Yep.
All right. Let me turn my, not that this really matters.
Yes, if she's a-
All right. Is Pat Tracy on here now? Still having problems. All right. There's some precedents to, this whole coronavirus thing throws stuff into a waiting room. Admit. It looks like they're still admitting people, Karen. I don't know why she can't get to the website. Anyway, one person is waiting.
Now where did you go?
I'm sorry.
Now I lost you altogether.
Can you hear me now?
I can
Can hear
hear
you.
you, but I can't see anything.
I can see you, Ray. I don't know why. I can see you also,
I can see.
Jeanette.
When you told me to go off, I told you I'm not going to run these meetings.
You find the Zoom button and click on it again, Jeanette. If there's a Zoom,
Start Zoom.
well, not start it, but there'll be a Zoom app. You just got to bring it back to the front, probably.
All right. So here's my take on it. Normally, if this were a town meeting, a public hearing, whatever, and we couldn't fit all the people in the room, we'd have to adjourn to somewhere larger or cancel the meeting and reschedule it. Considering what we're doing here and the ability still for people to log in by calling in, and it looks like folks just signed in, we may not really have a problem. So it would be my opinion that we continue on. And since we're not making any votes tonight, people can review the video at their leisure, whatever, and we can we're gonna pick this up again next week per schedule. Everybody okay with that, board members?
Yes.
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 All righty. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this. And here's our agenda. The two things I wanted to bring the light is, one, I have the same old business entry here twice for the Board of Ed. I don't want to pick on them or anything. It's just an extra one that got in there somehow. The other one was, I looked over the email sent by the auditor after Chris brought to my attention that I might be interpreting his email incorrectly. And this is a screenshot or the picture of our fund balance that the auditor sent us. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right. Okay, I interpreted this as meaning is our total fund balance is 2.4 million. That is incorrect. As you can see, we have restricted, committed money that we assigned from fund balance to last year's budget and the year before. OPEB. So that leaves us an unassigned fund balance of 1.78140.
Jeanette got knocked out. It says host has to let her back in.
I see her. Yep,
Okay,
she's back in.
give me a second.
I wish there were a way to set this up to auto.
Okay, bye.
I don't want to chime, that's for sure. Do you know if I turn off the enable waiting room, if it will just let people in?
Ray,
Yeah,
Jeanette, I got kicked out here, but I'm
get
back.
out of here.
Before we go into the Board of Ed things, can we make comments on the written communications?
Yeah, but, yes, when we get to the Board of Ed. I'm sorry, the town budget. Okay?
Well, it has both. Okay, sure.
Okay, well, yeah, that's fine for either. Does anybody know if I turn off enable waiting room, if it'll just let people in?
That's what it sounds like, but I don't know.
It should.
Or will it kick everybody out?
It's got to be ready to bump people if they're
We have to assume that
troublemakers.
some intuitiveness in this software, but anyhow, so what I did is I punched that new number into the budget. Where's that? Here it is. The only thing that affects, of course, is this number right here. 1780140, as you see right there. However, as you all are well aware of, that has a significant impact on how much we can pay down the mill rate.
We have to keep 1.4.
And I have the figures up here, Jeanette.
Okay.
The unassigned fund balance, 1.77922, which is 1.75922, which is wrong.
You mean the one from the other sheet?
No, the projected is 1755922.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
As opposed to audited.
All right, so 1780140, 140. And this is, we subtracted from that our additional appropriations from this year.
I'm still questioning whether we needed to take that 300 out as well.
I think that's the primarily the difference between the number we had in here and what the real number is.
Okay. So you've adjusted for that?
So I put the real number, the number in here, right here, that's the audited number. And then this number represents our additional appropriations to the tune of about 24,000. So that leaves us with 1755922.
I'm still questioning whether the $300,000, 302 that we gave to the school doesn't need to be accounted for, because that has not been fully audited yet.
Well, the audit the number that I'm using is the audited unreserved fund balance for the fiscal year ending 2019.
2019?
Yep, and that's what we would expect.
Okay.
Not in terms of the amount. But that's the audit we're working on. All right, Chris, any disagreements there? Yeah, I caught him snoozing. He brought that to my attention this afternoon, so we would be in worse shape not knowing it than knowing it. All right, so the cash flow money that we always talk about, the 10% is 1522,002, which leaves us 233,000 to use toward paying down the mill rate. As you can see, we have a disparity between spending and revenue of $767,884. So we're going to put that right here. We'll put it right there since it matches up. 167,834. And we're going to subtract that number from it. So we're going to take our 14. We're going to subtract T 10. T 10. And that gives us a figure of $533,914 in either additional revenue. Now, this is based on the values that we left our last meeting with. So this has, I'm sorry?
Ray, the school board seems to have gone down 100 and some. Should we plug those numbers in now so we know what the reality of what we're looking at?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Has the
let's
town
see.
changed any, or capital improvement, or school? In the proposed
I think-
budget?
Did we adjust the town? Chris, what's your new number? I know you provided the docs, but I didn't download them. For Lori,
What's that? I'm sorry.
what's your new budget
what?
proposal, town budget proposal? Total?
I don't have it in front of me, Ray.
All right, let me dig. Documents.
Pat put it on the town website.
What?
Pat put it on the town
It's
website,
on the town
the new
website.
budget.
We ended the evening last time with the number you gave us that's in there. But did they come up with anything more?
The town?
Yes.
I know that they were supposed to meet the other night, Chris.
Did Chris get my phone?
Where'd you go, Chris?
I don't see him on here anymore. Does he know he's not on here anymore? Maybe it's that waiting room thing. Maybe I should turn that back on.
Your name is tagged as Chris Lipke.
Yeah, it shouldn't be, but it is.
Okay.
I noticed
I
that.
previously renamed it. All right. There, on me again. Where is? There.
Hello? Hello?
Budget,
Yeah.
CIP.
Who is this? Yes? Yes? Oh, sorry. No, I'm trying to.
Last pages of the town budget. This was from last meeting, just so we can compare
I think
them.
he got, no, I think he,
So in the meantime, until we get Rob and Chris
no,
back,
I was calling here.
Jason is seated
You're definitely-
and Rob is not available. All right, so Town budget, general town budget. This year, here was what we had. Budgeted. 3,936,000. 3 million.
But we did cuts at that point in time with the library and some other things. They did come down to 296,591. That was the ending of our meeting last time. I just don't know if they made any more cuts in the meantime.
Not that I'm aware of.
He should be back on shortly, Ray.
All right, so
Maybe the school board you could find out?
I have the school board.
Guys, I don't mean to interrupt, but I can just weigh in that we met last night. We didn't make any additional cuts to the budget since the last meeting of the Board of Finance. We had made cuts, I believe, May 26th, we made cuts, submitted that to the Board of Finance meeting for May 27th. And then we met yesterday and didn't make any additional cuts.
No, I don't see him.
No, Chris is not.
All right, so how do I re-enable this stupid waiting room thing?
He's calling right now. He just said he's calling in right now.
Yes, if you turn off waiting room, oh, that came from Kate Orlomowski. I'm probably terrible pronouncing the names. Let me see if I can turn the waiting room back on just in case. I don't. Hi, video. Disable names, video panel, live on YouTube. Share computer. Well, what do we got?
All right.
There's the
All right, thank you.
participant list. There we go. Play, enable the waiting room. Okay, we got the new waiting room back on. All right, now.
Ray, the issue, Pat said she's on, but she can't hear anything. The issue is there's so many other people that are citizens that are getting on, we can't even get our board members on.
All right, let me see if I see her on here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
The issue right now is that people calling in are no longer able to hear. It's like they're muted. They're just trying to call in. And I don't see them here. I'm going to turn off muting altogether. Pat, can you hear us now? Chris?
Ray, in the bottom left corner of the program, it has mute. Have they unmuted themselves?
Ray, can you hear me? This is Jonathan Lane speaking.
Yes, I can. I just unmuted everybody on here.
Okay. I tried to unmute myself before, but it wasn't working. I don't know where Chris is, but I can weigh in to answer the question that the Board of Selectmen met last night. We didn't make any other decisions on the budget.
Okay, my concern is we have two board members that are not able to participate. So something has to be done. Karen, can you use our phone and try and call that number, the New York number, and see what happens?
Yeah.
In the meantime, I'm just gonna continue on with this piece. I mean, we gotta get something done tonight. That's town budget. The education budget I had posted on the town website. Oh, I have a headache already. Board of Education revised narrative. Hopefully that will have their balance. I don't want to download it. I just want to open it. And I'm going to say this on behalf of the board. This whole meeting by electronic whatever is almost unusable. It's much more difficult to try and get the meeting set up, established, and run. And on top of that, if we can't get people in here, then I'm tempted to say the heck with all of it and put it all on pause and let Governor Lamont figure out how we're supposed to do this.
It says I'm on hold by you and I cannot listen or talk.
All right,
until
hold
you-
on. One person's waiting. That's you. I can admit you. Tell Pat, can you call Pat back and tell her that,
All right.
All right.
all right, so whoever's not in, we just tried it from here and it works. All right, so looking at what the school board, okay, here they are, current increase, dollar increase, local funding proposed. Move this. Every screen wants to be on top. It makes it a little difficult to try and work
Okay, the
around.
new number is,
Let me make this bigger so I can see what I'm doing here. All right, Board of Education, this year's budget. Okay, so 11,856.
Yeah, I just dialed in. the Pat's trying to-
856 329.
no,
Huh?
proposed budget, the next one over. 11,856, 571. You went to the adopted budget as opposed to the proposed.
Oh, for the last three numbers, yep. All right, so this is 571.
Yes.
All right, so that's where we're at. So our deficit is now 533.9.
Excuse, that was Chris. He did get booted off. He's trying to dial in. He can't get on the web. So he's gonna dial in for what happened.
So,
All right, so what that means is that we need to raise either 533,000 or find additional savings within the budgets to cover it. So we know a mill is 374,000. So let's divide that number, which is the amount we just said was, let me get it somewhere separated here. That is S14 minus or divided by F 30. This thing is F31. That's 1.42 mil, or 1.43 actually, to support the budget as it is. Okay, anybody see any massive errors or flaws in the math here?
Ray, what would a change to the collection rate, how would that affect it? I know we looked at that a couple weeks ago. Like what's a 1% move on that side due to that number?
Okay, let's take a look. Let me change this is a number. And we only want one dust. So we go two because we don't want to round down on that. So, well, that was nice. Maybe I should leave the decimal. Format, one digit, no thousand separator. 1.4. All right, so 1.4. And let's see what happens on revenue.
so we need to come up with 533,914.
Right, and Mike asked for us to tweak this number. So I'm gonna put this over in La La Land. This is the number we had. We remember it's there. And we're gonna change this to 985,
Just to see, yeah.
98.5. All right, so we're gonna look at this number. Hopefully it will change. It did. So
All right, so call. He's looking for you.
9774. I think this should update automatically. 9774.
All right, she's gonna try again. So look out for Pat.
Total revenues 14.5. Total revenues,
That wouldn't change.
that's down here. Yeah, because that's all those added together.
Oh,
Total
actually, it would change. total
Yep.
revenue, because you're adding all those plus the 9.7.
And M7 was the number that changed. M7. Yep. And let's just see this in action. 9774. Remember that number. So that's-
9774.
Yeah, so that's about $100,000 difference with each mill,
Mhm.
or each percentage of collection rate.
Is there someone in the queue?
Yep, Pat and everybody come in the middle.
Tell,
And another one came in.
all right, call Pat.
Admit. All right, we just got a puppy dog in. All right, so that's where we're at. With that known now, go back to the front. Is she, Mike, I just changed that back just to keep everything on an even
Yep.
keel from last meeting. Expenses, there we go. Let's see if this should all remain the same. So it's a 1.4 mil increase as is. So let's go back to the agenda. Canterbury Board of Ed. So Board of Ed, do you agree with your numbers that Jeanette and I pulled off your narrative? We'll take that.
Yes.
We'll take that as a yes.
Is Pat Tracy on?
I don't know, Karen.
Yeah, I'm on.
Yep, she's on. All right, so
I'm on.
Jason's out, Pat's in. Bob's in. James, you're overriding us again. All right. James, I'm gonna have to mute you. Can you just raise your hand in front of your face when you're ready to speak, and I'll unmute you. All right, can everybody hear me now?
I can hear you.
All right, so back to this, the agenda, that thing. Okay, the one overall comment I want to make, based on, and then we'll go around the horn, based on written communications. One, there are a lot of really rude emails in that listing, and none of us deserve that for what we're trying to do. Nobody has heartburn for the library or any other part of this town. We're trying to get a budget passed. So some of the things that were written, I think you people really need to sit back and think about how you treat others in this town.
Can I comment on two things that I picked up on in those letters?
Yeah, hold on, one other thing. One other thing is that there's frequently mentioned about a 90% cut to the library. That's absolutely untrue. So those of you that were led to believe that is the truth, will look at the budget and prove that it isn't. Yeah, it's probably on the town sheet. They're basically 4 line items for the library. 3 of them, or 2 of them are salary. One of them is a grant line item, and the other one is that library fund. The total amount was $140,000. We cut 23. So do the math. It's not 90%, and whoever was passing that around needs to specify to people that it's 90% of that line item, which represents less than 20% or around 20% of their budget. Now, I'm not saying whether or not that should change or not. The other thing is all this babbling about FOIs and filing complaints. The only thing I can say to that is feel free, use the process. But you're going to find out that, number one, the meeting was noticed correctly, as all of them have been, and that I sent the letter to the agenda to the town clerk. She recorded it, date and time stamped it, and it went up on the website. It didn't have to go on the website, but it did, as you can see here.
Ray, I would like to make a point of order. I was going to wait till we got to the town budget on this.
How about let me finish speaking?
Point of order, it takes
It's a
precedence.
point of order.
Point of order is a privileged motion. I would like to state for the record that the vote on the town budget last week is null and void because
Yeah.
it was not noticed in the
Mike,
special meeting agenda.
Mike, a point of order is about what we're talking about. Your point of order not only is incorrect, but it's not a point of order on what we're talking about.
I just want to put into the record because you are saying that you've stated.
Okay, Mike, tell me why it
you've
was a legal meeting. Tell me why it was a legal meeting.
Ray, I have not used that word. I have not said anything about a meeting being illegal.
What was illegal about the meeting?
The agenda last week had no action, no vote, and we took a vote. Special meeting must adhere to the agenda.
The meeting agenda said this, and we'll go back to that. And again, you know, it just really cracks me up that the level that we go to.
Draft revenue projections, discuss acceptable mill rate, ask questions related to town budget, ask questions related to capital improvement budget, ask questions related to education budget. New meeting for June 3rd. There is no action in there for a vote.
But Chris,
So that
we
vote
were
is null and
discussing the
void.
acceptable mill rate.
Here's
That's
the
when
thing.
we asked for cuts.
Here's the thing. We made a vote on what we thought what an acceptable budget might be. We did not change the budgets. We
I
sent them to
believe
the
that
boards.
was the motion. The motion was to change line 1050. If you're saying we didn't do that, then we're in agreement. If the budget stands as it was presented to us last
You
Wednesday.
recall at the meeting that I said we're not setting a mill rate. If we're not setting a mill rate, we can't be setting budget bottom lines.
Then I would like the budget that the town is presenting to be corrected to the right amount, which on line 1050 is
We're
$27,020.
not even going to discuss that until we get to that point in the meeting.
Well, the only reason I brought that up, Ray, is because you're talking about proper noticing of meetings. And that was my point of order that I wanted to make clear, because particularly right now, we need to just be particularly clear
We have not
about what we're
approved the
acting on in
budget.
those meetings.
We have made suggestions for budgetary changes. And no, I'm not putting it back because we all agreed that that's what we wanted them to look at. We're going to take this opportunity to actually see that it was incorporated and what the changes were, which was the intent of the meeting.
Well,
Then the Board of Selectmen would need to change their budget, or we would have to have a properly noticed meeting to do so.
yeah, I think what Mike's getting at is because it was a special meeting, we as a board have to follow explicitly what was laid out in the agenda. And since even proposed changes to the budget wasn't laid out in the agenda, that it essentially doesn't count.
I would like to kick in on this. Jason, are you all set?
Discuss,
Okay.
now,
I'd like
hold on a
to
minute,
say
hold on a minute.
that-
New
Oh,
business, discuss budget proposal.
Right, and we were
That is it.
discussing the budget proposal. The only budget that we can touch per line is the Board of Selectmen and the CIP on recommendation. These are recommendations. We've not gotten new docs, so we don't have new docs that reflect that. That's on the selectmen to present final documentation. That hasn't gotten where we are at this point in time. We're still in the discussing stage. So yes, Board of Selectmen, we can do line item things. And that was part of our discussion, that we would ask the selectmen to cut this line. That's
Did
what we did.
there's no mention of a vote or an action in this agenda is the
We
issue.
discussed.
It was part of our
and
discussion.
We agreed as a group that our budget proposal needed to go down. And it could go down by reducing what we asked to be reduced. That's what we did.
Our
So
vote was
there's
simply to get a
nothing concrete,
consensus.
just as I said at the meeting, there is no budget at this point. There are three proposals. There is nothing more than that.
So I would hope. Board of
Our
Selectmen
vote was
would
purely to
correct their
get a
budget back to
consensus
the
of
amount
opinion
prior.
on the board. The same way when you threw out that you wanted to cut $75,000 from the school board. It's no different than us getting a consensus of opinion as to what we were asking each individual component to do. That's what that vote was. If they don't have the docs to support it, that's on them.
My clarification is I thought we were acting on line 1050 in the Board of Selectmen's budget. And if that's the case, then
We
it's
specifically asked.
it's null and
Board
void.
of-
If we did not act on that, then the budget is as it stood as of last Wednesday. Unless the Board of Selectmen have voted to change their budget.
Which they,
And John, can you clarify, or is Chris back on the call?
I mean, I can jump in and clarify that we had a meeting last night and we did not have a vote on that. I mean, it was at least my understanding that was the vote from the Board of Finance from May 27th was to reduce that. It didn't appear to me to be instruction to consider it, and it wasn't on our agenda. that's just my understanding. I don't know what Chris's thoughts are on that or if he's back on the call.
Well, even if you look at today's meeting agenda, here are comments from town resulting from cuts requested in the 27th meeting on all points and twice for the Board of Ed.
Okay, so we can
So
get.
I don't know how much clearer it can be made.
I just want us to be careful, just that we're
You
not.
know what? I'll play chairman, you play board member, okay? If anybody would get in trouble for violating FOI, it would be me.
Ray, I'm not actually worried about being hauled in front of the FOI board. I'm not threatening that. What I'm worried about is the participation of the community, because what I've heard from a couple people is that no action on the vote was on the agenda. So they had no idea that this would even be a possibility. Last week, we did not hear from the board of the library board. We did not hear defense of that budget. We made a cut with incorrect and incomplete
All right, well,
information.
when we get to that budget in our discussion on the agenda, we'll talk about it.
Okay, may I go back to my 2 points?
Yes, Jeanette, go ahead.
I glanced through the things. Sandra Smith's letter indicated that we told the Board of Education where to make cuts. We do not tell the Board of Education where to make their cuts. We were asking them for reductions. It is entirely up to the school board where they make the cuts. We are not the ones that do it. So please be really clear on that, public. The Board of Finance does not tell the Board of Education where to make the cuts. You have issues what they're cutting, your issue is with the Board of Education.
Just to amplify, then on the town side, we do have line item control.
Correct. Now, in one of the Sears letters, it said the public was not allowed and it was blocked. We did not block any meetings. These were all posted and published. So therefore, if you wanted to participate, you were
Jeanette, to my point, I believe that one is specifically talking about the vote action that we took that was not noticed.
Well,
To
I
my-
just read this.
So you're just calling that out.
Anything.
Mike, I just read the sentence that the public was blocked.
You're looking at individual sentences. I'm going to look at the
Yes, I am.
totals. We have 30 letters, 30
Mike,
to
you're not
nothing.
there.
And when we get to
We're
that,
not
we'll
there
discuss
yet.
it.
Please.
So
That was
Jeanette,
my-
continue, please.
That was my pickup on that letter, that we had blocked the people from participation and acknowledge what was going on, and that is not a true statement. So once you put it out there in writing, I'm going to rebut it because it's defaming the Board of Finance, and it's not true. I would like to know if tonight, when we get to this point, Mr. Chairman, as to whether any library board members are here to answer the questions.
It had
And
not been for the last 2 years, but let me check the list.
This is the point of the agenda and in a special meeting, sticking to the agenda. That was not as an action to discuss the library budget, so no one would have known to do
yes,
that.
it was. It's
town
under the
budget.
selectmen's budget. It's on
Well,
part of the selectmen's
There
budget.
was no action to vote on it.
No one said anything about voting.
I am here. The library chair is here, okay, for later on, all right? Just let you know I'm here, okay?
Thank you, Christine.
All right, thank you, Jeanette. Thank you. Okay.
All right, anyone else have any comments as we move, before we move to the Board of Education?
Yeah, I do. I just think for transparency, if there is a gray area, maybe we should, let's err on the side of caution rather than just kind of plowing forward. If we did cast a null and void vote, maybe we should revisit it and reset the numbers back. I know it involves taking even more time and going back over what we did, but I think we owe it to the town to do that. And if there's the perception that it's out there, even if we're completely correct, and I don't know if we're completely correct, it's better to address that perception than maybe not.
Well, since that's not on the agenda either, that would be illegal. As it is, we don't have an approved budget. Now,
We
if
can
you want
have
me to
that on a
remove the
future
working
agenda.
documents from the website, I will. But at this point, we've now wasted 30 minutes of the meeting.
Ray, please don't characterize open meetings and
Do you
town involvement
understand
in
what
government.
decorum and meeting decorum is?
Chris, when I make a point of order,
not
I get the
Chris.
floor. Excuse me, Ray. Sorry.
I am not.
When I make a point,
No, you
and it
don't
doesn't even
get
say
the
Chris
floor.
on the
You
screen.
get the floor when you're recognized, and you have not been recognized. We have asked the Board of Education to make responses or to make comments based on what we had discussed at the last meeting. Is there a member of the Board of Education ready to do that?
Yes, on behalf of the board, I can at least start the discussion.
Okay, James, go ahead.
Okay, we took the recommendation or the suggestion, whatever you want to call it, that the Board of Finance made last week. And basically, in the beginning, we worked from actually Thursday till Monday morning on figures, and then it was basically Michelle and I, with some help from Corey, who's our new special ed director, and came up with a recommendation with the cut that we would still be able to do three main things. One, that we were able to support the current payroll, the number of people on the current payroll as of the close of school on the 13th of March. That was the day where we went to a closure. And we were also able to support three positions that aren't active now. One was the bus coordination, and the other was the payroll clerk in the business office. And we were also able to support the new fourth grade teacher at the elementary school. And we discussed all these with the board on Monday night. They had a special meeting, and it was a lengthy discussion. Each of the line items that we suggested were debated among the board and ourselves and among board and staff. And in the end, they unanimously supported the proposed cuts that I initially suggested. There are two areas just that you ought to be aware of. The board listened, and I listened to some of your comments. And we try to incorporate them. The one thing that's very important to us, we can't do anything about it this year, but the whole issue about high school tuition and the issue with Woodstock Academy and quite frankly, some of the other schools. So the board is going to going to actually form a committee immediately. So we start looking at that issue. We're not going to wait until a year from now. I just want to say personally, I'll stand by this budget. And I told the board that, do I have perfect eyesight on how things will be in this pandemic? No, but I think when we took a look at cost, when we took a look at personnel, it's the best we can do right now, given the circumstances. For instance, one of the things that I'm going on, school will not go back to how it opened up or how it closed rather on March 13th. So when the school reopened committee, the task force, they have about 20 community people in it, and they'll start working next week. We're looking at other hybrids, either mostly distance learning or a hybrid of kids coming in part-time and going on distance learning part-time. But what I'm saying to you folks is this budget will support whatever way that goes. There's, as you mentioned last week, there are a lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainties. But the one certainty I can give you is that the budget we propose with the cuts will be able to sustain the personnel that we have. The other thing the board wanted to make sure of, and I agree, that there's no smoke and mirrors here. And there's no intent that if we guess wrong, we're going to come back to the Board of Finance for a supplemental. Off the table. That's very, very important to know. If we guess wrong, unless there's a catastrophe where the federal government should come in or the state and support us. But as things stand now, if we guess wrong, we will, for instance, on special ed, special ed placements, we're not going to come and say, oh, we didn't know this kid was coming to town. We need a supplemental. That's my word, and that's the board's word. That this budget was intent that we'll live with it. And if we have to make internal cuts within the overall number, we'll do it. And I just want to say, maybe to get a little creds with you folks, I've been in this business for many, many years, too many years, I don't even want to count. And I have never, either I was mostly in the urban areas in Bridgeport. I never ran a deficit budget. And I never came in for a supplemental appropriation to any district. And when I worked up here in the northeastern Connecticut, I worked in Putnam 2 times. I worked in Killingly once, same thing. We were able, working closely, particularly in Putnam with the Board of Finance, but we never, what they gave us, we worked with. And I credit that to the business managers in all 3 places. In Putnam, I worked, in Killingly, I worked with Christine Clark. She's still there. And in Putnam, I work with the business manager. She's still there. And basically, the way I work with them was the same way I work with Michelle in trying to bring this budget together. So it's we're sincere, and we think the cuts are informed that we did. As I said, there's no smoke or mirrors, and I stand by on the record that if this is approved, there is no way in any regular time where you'll see the Board of Education coming in and asking for a supplemental because of something we figured out wrong during 2021. One other thing, Ray, and it's kind of when we're meeting, also something happens on the outside. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about CARES for the Board of Ed, and actually when we were meeting, they sent out the allocation. In our case, as I said, it was 84,775. Before I got to this meeting, and I don't know if Chris is on, if he was on the same meeting, but the governor had a meeting this afternoon at 5 o'clock. And one thing that they are going to announce tomorrow is the CARES allotments to the local communities. And that was one source of revenue that obviously you folks, no one knew what it would be. They will bring that out tomorrow. I don't know what the number will be for Canterbury at this point, but they say it will cover all of the pandemic expenses that the town occurred from March 3rd on. And the other thing that's important, they've also said that right now, as you know, when we put the expense into FEMA, and FEMA approves at 75%, they're saying now both at the Board of Ed and at the town level, you folks can then use your CARES money to pick up the 25%. So a lot of the things that we did under FEMA, let's say we went in for $100,000 and we would get 75 back, we could then use the CARES money on both sides to really get 100% back on our expenditures. And as I mentioned before, my interpretation is whatever the town gets back, even if it's as a result of Board of Education expenses, because we would apply for those expenses under the town. That's yours. We're not suggesting any way, shape, or form that that money then come back to the Board of Ed. So it's it gives a little bit of certainty, but I'm pleased for you folks and for us that at least we know there will be some additional federal money coming to the towns. And I'm also pleased that they've interpreted the federal government as we can combine money. So, for instance, we bought Chromebooks against a SIP grant, or the SIP account rather, your account, and we're applying for 75% back. Now we can give you 100% back by combining the FEMA reimbursement with the CARES money.
Okay. I have some questions on that tally sheet for how you came up with the 132.
Sure. I mean, and Michelle worked along with me, so a lot of it on the individual things, we can probably tag team on answering your questions, okay?
Okay. Ray, may I ask some questions?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Your health insurance benefits, you're saving $5,000. How did that happen?
Let me get to Michelle.
Jim, I can talk to that. Yeah. Our final rates came in and they are at 19% now instead of the 19.5 on medical, and still a 0 on dental.
So You went down 5%, okay. When did that information come in?
We did not go down 5%. We went down 0.5%.
I'm sorry, 0.5, Michelle, you're
It
right.
was 0.5. Sorry.
0.5, you're right. When did that information come in?
Last week, there was an email that was sent out, and then we had a board meeting today through Connecticut Chip when it was confirmed.
Okay. How did you reduce contracted transportation 17 grand?
We feel as though we can keep our runs in-house. That 17 grand was across multiple lines. Some of that was special ed. We have enough runs for the students that we have right now in-house that are going out. So I don't think that we're going to need to really contract our transportation. I think we're going to be able to keep it all in-house.
Okay, then my question to you is that given the fact that you were creating a budget, why wasn't that number disclosed earlier? Just my comment on that. Central office non-certified personnel. How did you save 10,000?
That's my position.
So you're no longer at 80 for a 0.8%, you're now 70?
Yep.
And I might add that was Michelle's decision. I still felt that just from my experience here that we needed 4 days a week, but Michelle feels that you can do it and go back to a 0.7.
So you're also reducing it to a 0.7. But the rate hasn't changed, just the amount of hours that you're asking for work, Mr. Conley, correct? Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Michelle?
That is correct. The rate has not changed.
All right, so you're down to a 0.7 position, okay? Administrator salaries, how did you save 7,600?
That is the increase right now in their contract. That is a preliminary.
I just want to caution, a lot of this right now, if we've made some adjustments in there, and anything we have to do, and when we get a budget, we might have to also negotiate this with or make some personnel decisions. But it was a combination of many things, and also a combination of scheduling people, as well as from people who there are increases in here that probably won't be implemented. So it's a creative way, and I just have to tell you, without going into personnel issues, which we shouldn't be right now. I'm totally confident with that savings figure.
Okay, but we have been told historically over and over and over again, you can't do anything. It's contract, touch salaries, can't do it. Yet now you're telling we can suddenly do 7,600.
No, listen, I can't go into labor negotiations. All I can tell you is I'm confident, very, very confident. You can go to the bank that we will save that $10,000.
Okay, how about in the same thing with the superintendent's salary? You're expecting to come down 23?
That's not me, but I guess I'll let Michelle answer it. I mean, basically, Steve Rio won't be here until August 15th.
So it's a delay in starting time?
Savings there. I'll be here part-time, hopefully. And I don't, basically, that's how you factored it, Michelle, right?
That's correct. I factored in a number of days for Jim and the late start date for the next superintendent.
Okay, when did the superintendent sign his contract?
Pardon me?
When did the new superintendent sign his contract?
Oh, he signed it the day they was appointed.
Which means nothing. When was he assigned? When did he sign his contract?
When?
Yeah.
It was in June. No, sorry,
Okay.
May. It was a special meeting. I don't have my calendar in front of me.
No, I don't need the exact date, but my point to that is, you're talking.
It was sometime in mid-May.
Okay, so Mr. Conley, you're talking transparency, yet you already knew that $2,300 was a savings, yet it was put into the original budget.
Pardon
Because
me?
you knew that delay start date.
I didn't have this new superintendent's contract until last week.
Oh,
So he may have signed it. I got a copy of it last week. So then in this whole cuts thing, I went in and I figured out where we would be with that salary.
okay, so
And just,
you knew it was
And I-
the.
just if I might add in one thing there, I was just informed, like, I think it was last week by the Board of Ed chair, that the contract had been signed and that there was some savings in there. So, I know nobody needs to vouch for anybody here, but I'm sure Nancy told me as soon as she was able legally. So,
Right. He was appointed, I think, mid-May, but the actual contract was signed later.
And quite frankly, I wasn't involved, obviously, in the appointment or the contract at all. I never saw it.
How did you save
Bill finally got it last week.
How did you save 34,000 with certified salaries? Michelle?
I'm going to actually defer that one to Jim, please.
Which line is that?
Jim, that's the certified salaries.
Well, that is the personnel thing I'm talking about. I'm looking at our needs on the reopening of school, and I base this on the fact that we would not be opening in school like we did when schools closed. And I base that on the best information available right now on how we're going to be delivering education, how much transportation, basically that's all I can tell you. Schools are going to be structured differently than when we closed up, and through that restructuring, we will. I'm certain we will save that amount.
Okay, then
That's a figure you can go to the bank on.
okay, then you say you saved your bus coordinator, your payroll clerk, and your grade 4 teacher. If you're talking about perhaps delayed opening, again, these are all unknowns and we all respect that. But you're talking about possible delayed openings, possibly having a remote learning component to the profile of what you set up, all possibilities. Why are you adding a full-time teacher for 2 kids?
Pardon
if they're remote, there's no different than one little click on a computer.
The board, I think there's an educational justification based on size, and quite frankly, when we get kids back in whatever way, shape, or form after this pandemic ends, they're going to need more services and not less services. Kids, both emotionally, there's a makeup. I mean, educationally, the remote learning isn't a month for a month compared to if they were in school. So we all know, and it's pretty well established, there is going to be a need for catch-up, for more remediation, and for more social and emotional support. So that's why I would defend that. I mean,
have you approached the 4th grade teachers as to whether they'd be willing to take on one additional student, because you have more than one 4th grade teacher, for a stipend as per contract allows?
If you've looked at what the recommendations are coming down from the state of Connecticut for any in class, we can't have any more than 10 kids in the class. So, I'm just telling you from an organizational point of view and what the options are, we need the person.
Well, that's why you stagger your days. Some kids come in, some kids stay out. So that gives you your class size. I still object to you hiring an entire new teacher for 2 students when you can have your teachers pick up those students for a lot less money because you have that in your contract. My opinion, your choice.
Point of order. I don't think we need to be discussing policy.
That's what I said. It's their policy. It's my opinion, their policy. So,
your comments are noted as I did last week.
Let me step in here for one thing. Jason, you're not seated right now. For the other thing is Mr. Connolly, when you made
can we clarify that?
Statement, yes, Rob and Pat are seated. We have all full board members.
Chris and Rob is back.
Yes. Let me go back to what I was trying to say. Just to bolster what James said about this not being a dream or people wanting to come back or whatever. I have a very preliminary draft of our town audit. We had what appears to be a significant finding in last year's budget: material weakness and non-compliance with budgetary requirements. Criteria section 10, 222 of State of Connecticut General Statute states that expenditures by the Board of Education shall not exceed the appropriation made by the municipality, with such money as may be received from other sources for school purposes. If any occasion arises where additional funds are needed by such board, the chairman of such board will notify the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, or appropriating authority, as the case may be, and shall submit a request for additional funds in the same manner as provided by departments, boards, or agencies of the municipality, and no additional funds shall be expended unless such supplemental appropriation shall be granted, and no supplemental expenditures shall be made in excess of those granted through the approving authority, which is exactly what we said last year. So if, you know, I understand your budget is an honest one, sir. I'd like to use that statement as a reminder to the Board of Education of the consequences of what happened last year.
I have one more point. Michelle, perhaps you can speak to, how did you save $3,000 in transportation liability and property insurance?
Our broker reached out to us and asked about how many buses have not been on the road due to the COVID closure. And he went back to Travelers and asked for a refund on our insurance. They are applying our refund next year to our premium. That's the $3,000.
Thank you.
So Jeanette, did you have anything further?
Not on those points, but when we get into the discussion, we are only hearing comments from the board. So that's where we are.
What do you mean?
Well, it says here comments from the Board of Education resulting from cuts requested. Okay, and those were the cuts that were requested. So those are my comments to that point of our agenda item.
I think Tom spoke up here. Is there any other Board of Education member who wishes to speak with regard to the cuts that were made? Not with regard to, but about the cuts that were made or the overall budget situation? No hands here. Okay.
Can I add one thing? I don't know if there's any, but the Board of Ed was also adamant, and it's not part of the budget proposal, but to indicate that based on the comments that the Board of Finance made last week, they're going to we're starting immediately on looking at high school tuition, and hopefully, and not only with Woodstock, but overall. And it's just not something we're going to do. They're going to come in next year when we're. I guess what I'm saying, we're serious about that.
Thank you.
I don't know. Right now, there's no promises, but I just noticed that 4 school districts have already petitioned NFA to reduce the tuition this coming year because of the pandemic, and it might happen. We got a letter from NFA saying they would review it. There was no promises, and I'm not counting that in the budget at all. I just, but your comments and the board's comments about the tuition and we take them very, very seriously, and I won't be here. I'll be here for a couple of months, but we're going to initiate that stuff before I leave.
Can I ask how much the school anticipates returning to the town?
Right now, Michelle is still working on it. I don't know if you want to give a guess right now, Michelle, or you want to wait till you give the financials to the Board of Ed at the meeting on Tuesday, which you folks will get Tuesday. The Board of Finance will get them Tuesday night. I can say this, and Michelle can't kick me under the table because we're remote, but it'll be certainly more than the than the financials you received last month. It's going with a bigger surplus rather than closer to a deficit. I don't know if you want to elaborate at this point on that, Michelle, or not.
I would just rather wait until we get the financials for next week. There's a lot of things that we're working really hard at in regards to special ed tuition, just with the closures, and we're trying to negotiate to not have to pay the full amount of money that our outplacements have been charging. So that's
to that point, Michelle, will that money be refunded to you this year or credited towards next year?
if it's in regards to like a special ed placement, they will not be charging us. Right now, they're still charging us for March, April, May, and June, or the half of March. So those would be bills that we just would not be paying. If it was a bill that we had already paid, we'd ask for a check credit so that we could apply it to this year's budget.
Okay, therein lies the conundrum. I agree with them giving you the money back, and I know you have no control, Michelle, over what they dictate they will do to you because they have you over the barrel. But if they're giving you a credit to next year's budget.
No, I'm saying to this year's budget. I would prefer for them to give us a credit back via check so that we can apply it to the fiscal year 20 budget.
And that would be given back to the town as a surplus.
Correct.
However, if they give you a credit towards next year's tuition bills, right? So you're getting a saving in the next one. Will you please notify the Board of Finance that that money came in?
Absolutely.
When you say that the last data we got, was it 5,000 or 15 that you were talking, Michelle? At
15.
It was 15.
15. And I'm not promising that special ed costs. I'm just saying Corey is working really hard at trying to negotiate that for us not to pay. So that is why, okay. I just don't want anyone to say.
Hey, Jeanette, for just 1 second, if you would, just for the record, because I can see the wheels turning. I'm gonna have a roll call. We have 6 full board members seated at this time. I'm 1. Michael Lee is 2. Matt Bruno is 3. Jeanette is 4. Pat is 5.
Rob Tuttle?
Hold on.
Rob Tuttle.
I'm gonna get to the next page. So we said 5, right? We have Rob Tuttle is 6. And we have Jason as an alternate that is not seated at this time.
I would just ask that the school board be very aware that any money that they get back and any credits or anything be notified to the school Board of Finance, because there always seems to be extra money that gets thrown into the budgets that somehow we're not aware of, and I'd like to know. Thank you for your efforts.
Okay, agreed.
Hey, Ray, this is Matt. I'd like to make a comment that I think the work the Board of Ed has done so far this year has been much improved than in years in the past. And I just want to commend them on that because some of the decisions aren't easy.
One more thing I'd like to point out is the school board increase is still $250,000. Yeah. Ray, you're muted.
I don't think anybody would disagree with the fact that the Board of Ed was left with a real mess.
Yes.
And they have made significant inroads. And I appreciate Tom reminding me the last meeting about the additional measures and motions they made about additional or hirings or moving money around within their budget, which was a long-term issue, as well as they fully understand now the issue that I read earlier. And now that they're addressing, they can only do so many things at a time, but they're addressing the high school availability. I think they're, of already within a few months of the election have made major steps toward what we asked them to look at. And that's one other point. When we talked about budget responsibilities, there's a section of the state statutes, it says the Board of Finance may recommend to the Board of Education cuts, and that the Board of Education has to come back to the Board of Finance with responses. They don't have to necessarily implement our requests, but overall, the budget line item, the bottom summary of their budget is set by the Board of Finance and normally approved by the citizens. Unfortunately, our governor didn't leave us that ability this year, so that's where we're at with that. And again, thank you to the Board of Ed for taking on all these huge, long time issues that could serve to have a big effect and allow us to really focus on keeping, making sure the education money is spread out evenly among the, middle school, elementary, and high school. Go ahead. I hear somebody else clearing their voice.
I think that was a burp.
All right. Does anybody else have anything they want to speak about in terms of the Board of Education's budget?
So Ray, just to clarify, is this just a duplicate item on here? We're going to skip C?
Yeah, I mentioned that at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
Now if I could just find the Word document hiding back here somewhere. Here we go. As I mentioned earlier, Board A, item A and item C are duplicates. All right, so now we have here comments from the town resulting from the cuts requested at the last meeting. All I've really heard, I know that I think they uploaded the budget to their budget to the site, but it would appear at least. All right, Chris, would you like to speak, please? Chris. Hello, Chris.
Hey, Ray, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, what was your question? I missed part of that. You're cutting in and out. I missed part of what you were saying. You weren't that clear.
Yeah, I think Mr. Connolly's mic is. Let me just mute him real quick. And
yeah,
it got all quieter. What I asked for is you guys had a meeting last night and you discussed the recommendations we made, requests we made, whatever you want to call them.
well, we discussed, I was actually operating under the premise, and I know we've had this discussion over the past 3 years. I was operating under the premise as the Board of Finance has the authority to make line item decisions for our budget. And I know we talked about that in the past, that was a decision the Board of Finance made and we were going to live with it. That was the impression I got with that. Now, if that was a recommendation, then we can revisit it as the Board of Selectmen and see. From my perspective, I think, we need to fund the libraries so that they can perform their core missions, their core goals. They can do what they have to do. But we can always revisit that. But I was taking that as the Board of Finance exercising its authority to do line item, essentially line item veto power, and set that figure. But if I was wrong in that, then so be it. We'll revisit it. As it stands, the budget itself is still coming in below last year's ask. Even with the library funded at the level that it was prior to the Board of Ed, I'll use the governor's term, rescission.
And overall, with the change in our unreserved fund balance, I think it's kind of a moot point at this stage, because that's a fairly significant change. Anyway.
As I've said before, and I said it last time, and I'll just say it again, that you give me 30 seconds. My biggest concern is looking at that first quarter and ensuring that we have enough operating capital there to cover our expenses, because we hemorrhage cash in that first quarter. And so, we need to make sure we don't spend that fund balance down to buy down the mill rate, only to find out 6 weeks into that first quarter that we're shutting down pretty much, that we're in a position where we have to start making, shutting down and cutting back on what we do just so we have we can preserve our capital. But that's
Chris?
something we'll work with. Yeah.
Chris, can I ask you, what do you need in the reserves for the first month's operating expenses?
Well, based on, and the auditors, they just take the unreserved fund balance and they divide it by 12. But their base number is that 2.110 million would buy us 1.7 months budgeted expenditures. Now, our first quarter, we have a lot of bills that are front end loaded. You know, if I have to call up creditors and organizations to try to negotiate payments on time rather than one lump sum payment due in July, I will. But we would need, and again, based upon, I'm thinking worst case scenario, I would like to have a good 1.5, 1.6 million in there, yeah, just to make sure we have what we need. We're looking at our escrow. We take in 42%. I'm not sure how much of that is going to come in. We have the tax deferment, which is going to kick those payments out to October 1st, which is the same as saying July 1st due, but they're not past due till the end of July. So we might not see a large chunk of money come in till mid to late October.
So you're saying we need you, from a town's point of view, operating expenses and the overall, you would like to see 1.5 million in unreserves?
I would like to see, if not more. And
What do we have in there?
Two.
And you have 1.7?
I think it's 1 point. I'm going to say 1.7. I'm trying to read. Is there 2.1? So I'd even like to see it up to 1.7 million, or no lower than that, 1.8. I don't know. I'm going to err on the side of caution because you know, unlike a business, we can't go out and sell more widgets to raise capital. We're solely dependent upon the tax revenue that comes in. We don't have a product that we can sell more of to try to shift to bring in revenue. So I would err on the side of caution and keep that as close to that 2 million as possible, so we can weather through the first quarter and into the second quarter.
So that would mean that we do not touch at all our unreserved projected balance.
Or touch it lightly, or run the numbers on what looks like the projected mill rate increase. Yeah, I'll make it work. One way or the other, I will work to make it work. You know, we'll do what we have to do, but my concern is to have the town in a position where we are unable to meet our obligations. And I hope we don't get there. I hope that we get a healthy tax collection through that first quarter. But worst case scenario puts us in a tight situation.
Okay, so based on that statement, it's looking like we will not have any fund balance to use to reduce our mill rate.
That
accurate,
isn't
Mr.
true.
Chairman? Mr. Chairman?
The spreadsheet in front of you tells the story. If we were to maintain the full amount that we normally do, which is 10% for cash flow, we would have an amount of, we'd have 233, almost 234,000 that we could pay down the mill rate with, but that still leaves us with about 400,000 that we'd have to come up with. So if Chris wants Chris thinks 1.7 is the number, then yes, this number becomes 0. And it means that we would have to offset the total 634,000 with the mill rate increase, and a mill is worth 374,000.
Under 2.
So roughly, 1.4, I think, is what we looked at. So I think, did I answer your question and all that rambling?
Yes, the 1.7 was what Chris was asking for, would leave us nothing, but we're thinking 1.5 is all he's going to get.
All right.
Chris, I'll speak to the budget just briefly.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to speak to the town budget.
Go ahead.
So just to reiterate and summarize, the letters that came in support of the library were basically 30-1 overwhelming support. We saw things listed such as homeschoolers who use that library. If you think about it, a homeschooler who's over there is saving the town money because they're not a kid at the school. Also the elderly and folks on fixed income. It's just a tremendous resource. And I think the town basically is affirming and stating that. So whatever the Board of Selectmen do to that line, I just think they should take that into consideration.
May I ask the chairman of the library board to step in on this conversation and clarify for us any grant money that they have sitting there?
Okay, hi Jeanette, yes, let me, if you saw my email, I know there were four line items, okay? And I'm not as learned as you are about all the things that go on in the town, all the different things I have to know about, but the line item 1150, that's the one that I said was cut the 90%. And the thing was, I did not know that I should have been there last week's meeting. Otherwise I would have been there with all these figures, but I have the figures here. There are like 21 different items, different groups of items that what makes up the 27,000. So, you know, that's what I can talk about. And, but I know this is the day of like, we have to really tighten our belts and the pandemic is going on. And Ray, I'm like you, I hate these meetings. I don't like Zoom meetings. I've been on other boards. It's awful, but we have to do it. So, so if you want, Jeanette, I can talk about where the money is, where the money was, the 27,000 was going to go.
Can you answer one question for me before you start?
Okay.
The money that was gifted to the library by the man that passed away, where is the document that shows the stipulations to spending that money?
Okay, that is all. It's got to be in the library. There's a whole bunch of things, letters going back and forth about, you know, the donation that came to us, supposedly used for building a library, you know, standalone library, capital grants, not to be used for anything like operating expenses. They'll be like dwindled away. I think he wanted it to be something that was going to build the library up. That's what I think. But I am going to investigate this. I am going to invest once I can get into the library. I'm going to investigate that whole file and everything to make sure. Because
my statements at the previous meeting, with regard to that funding, is you know, he gave the town, gave the library $1 million. There's $1,074,000, something like that, with interest now.
Right. Yes, right now, it's like, so, I think it's 1,000,000.
My point is
85,000. Yeah, 1,085,000. Yep.
My point is that there's a big difference between wants, needs, and, you know, saying that it's stipulated that it's for only capital improvement may have been a decision of the library board. As a matter of fact, I think that's what it really was. And I certainly respect that, but that is not something that we're bound to. You know, if push comes to shove, we have to do what we have to do. So, you know, again, with the communication to the public, when we say that it was stipulated, we better be able to prove that it was. And I was told specifically that it was not. Not that we should do anything different than you guys want to do with it, but it's not.
And did a lawyer tell you that, Ray? Ray? Was it?
No, they have no documents saying anything other than basically a certificate of deposit was given to the town for $1 million. There's nothing in the will as far as I've been told. Okay. There's nothing verbal, there's nothing written.
Can we move this for research? Because I think this is something
don't interrupt me, Mike. You're not recognized at this point, and when I recognize you, you may speak. All right, go ahead again, Christine.
Okay, I was going to say, yes, I will, once, as I say, get into the library, I will research that whole folder. I know it was back in the summer of 2015 is when it came in. 2015, the Gutty donation. That's when it came in. So.
Okay, I appreciate
May I ask a question?
Hearing one way or the other. I mean, okay. I've asked over the last 2 years, I've asked just about everybody that's in the library, including past, present, and future, no, maybe not future, library board chairpersons, and nothing. So
And Christine finish answering the question Jeanette asked, which is where that money
you're
is going.
recognized now, Mr. Lee.
I just wanted to ask Christine to continue. What
Okay,
she was
all
just going
right.
to say where that
Well,
money is going.
Christine, may I interject? Is
Yes.
that something that you could share your knowledge with Mr. Lipke, since you are an entity of our town, so that he
Yes.
would be fully aware of what you find for information that can be passed over to our chairman?
Exactly. You mean about the Gutty,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
donation? Yes.
Thank you.
So make sure that he is in the loop. Yes.
Thanks. And how is the that money in that line item spent?
Okay, here we go. Thank you, Jeanette. Yes. There's like 21 different areas, but let me tell you, first of all, it's like the main areas of the high-speed internet from the Connecticut Education Network, because you see a lot of people here in town, we realize this, they're not very rich, so they like to come in the library, use the library, use our free Wi-Fi to do that. That's a big expense, a couple of thousand. There is Verso, which is the service that checks out materials and keeps the book inventory. Now, the two schools are paying, they're on the same system as what we are, and they pay their portion of the service. But as I say, that is roughly, here we go, $2,200 a year for Verso, and what I just said about the high-speed internet is almost $2,200 a year. So there's those two charges. Then we're coming down to Request IT, the service that provides internet library loans, and that's about $325 a year. Now these, Jeanette, are all numbers from like 2018, 2019 fiscal year. We don't have the, of course, 2019 to 2020 because it's still going on and we have the pandemic and, you know, all the stuff's going on now. But also people, you know, they figure they have the papers for free. So we get the Norwich Bulletin, the Hartford Courant, the Wall Street Journal, and they all come in every day, you know, the circulars, and people come in and they use them in the library. Now, one big expense though is about $4,000 a year, and this is what it is: e-audio, e-book, and e-magazine subscriptions for around $4,000 a year. And I think one of those 30 letters comes from my niece. She teaches high school and she's very brilliant. But anyhow, she was saying too about people with dyslexia and students like this, they really like, you know, they really depend upon e-books. They can't read, whatever, but they can hear it. So the audio stuff is very important for them. The other thing is we have, now this is what we got, as I say, over the last year. We have large print books. We got 37 large print books, 121 adult books, 177 juvenile books. We have subscriptions to the, 12 books for kindergarten age, junior library guild subscription. We got young adult books on CD. We've got 87 DVDs. And they said during last year, 6,300 DVDs were checked out during the year. So a lot of people love the movies, including myself. You know, check out the movies. There's also book swaps thing. And then of course, then we come to supplies. And of course, this year, if we ever do open the library in a few months, right now we're just going to start the curbside pickup tomorrow. Hope that's going to run great. And we'll need more supplies like cleaning supplies, office supplies, book covering materials. That's almost $2,000 a year for supplies. Then we come to programs like they had fun with the beekeeping classes and small business classes and cooking and knitting and everything. And that came to fiscal year, was it 2019, was $1,300. Then there is a line item for, let's see, almost $5,000 called other, and other would be for materials that get damaged, things like this. So as I say, I know we're under tight fiscal, you know, regime right now. So if we cannot have the 27,000, I want us to go back with the board, go back and sit with the library director, see what we can do. Maybe, I don't know, I mean, I don't want to say we cannot order any books so we can't do things like this, but see how much bare bones we can make it. You see what I mean? I'm, you know, trying to work with you because, you know, because I know we're all, you know, we're all in the same boat, but I know how much the library means to a lot of people. They do. It means a lot to them to come.
Okay. So to your points, Christine.
Yeah.
The one thing you didn't say how much you spend in large print books, the 12.
Okay, let me see. Yeah.
Kind of a group. What do you kind of spend on books?
Okay, sure. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
About.
Okay, here we go. I says okay, large print that we got last year. 37 large print books cost $1,000 and looks like $1,100, roughly $1,100 last year with large print books. 37 of them. The 121 adult books came to $1,806, so $1,800. The 177 juvenile J books were $1,783. We have the Junior Library Guild subscription for the kindergarten age people, $228. We have 25 young adult books that were purchased, $253. Then we had 12 adult books on CDs that were $373. Then we had the 87 DVDs, the movies, DVDs, $1,239. Okay, so, and then, yes, and then the supplies, we said were like, it was like almost $1,900 for supplies, which means book coverings and office supplies and everything. And then they had another thing here that says DVD, foreign language and independent cinema, books on CD swap, whatever, all that was going on, that was $1,100. So these are all the line items that are in, and then a $5,000 other line item, which was going to be for anything that got damaged, okay? You know, things like emergency repairs, you know, that you never know, you can't gamble on, you know, you don't know what's going to happen during the year. So if things get damaged. So I hope that helps a little bit, as I say, you know, but I mean, we will try, but it's just that I know we can't live with 3,000. I know 27 to 3 is drastic. And that's why I said line item. I did not say like Ray was saying, people saying 90% of the whole budget. No. All we could do is really touches the 1150 line item. And from that, it's the only thing that you can really take off. And so if we do cut that amount, you know, that's not going to be good, because it might not, maybe we'll just fund just some internet and nothing. I mean, nothing. So, you know, we really can't run with that.
So Christine, it sounds like you're willing to go back.
Yes.
With your board.
Yes.
And make any cuts in consideration of our cut hours, loss of programming, which, you know, is in effect, all that money was there is gone. My question to be is that you say with the Verso and the inventory system, the school pays their part.
Yes.
Do you pay for all of it and then the school reimburses you for their part? Or
that I'll have
billing?
Yeah, I know. So, you know, that I'm going to have to find out, because right now it just says, I have the notes that say that they're on the same, so they pay their portion, but that we pay ours. And it says here, we are paying $2,200 a month. So I'm going to find out, you're right, Jeanette, if that's the total or if that's just what we're paying.
This is Michelle. We actually pay, we get invoiced separately from you and we pay our own share.
You do. So there's the same with, okay, you do. Great.
Yep.
Both schools, right? Because you have both schools.
Correct.
And the library.
Yeah,
Okay.
I noticed in their budget they had Verso, but I didn't know if they gave you the money or whether they paid their own. Okay.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks, Michelle. Yep. Okay.
Okay, well, I appreciate your willingness to go back, and I think you as well understand what we're in for this year.
Exactly. No, it's very sad. It's very, I mean, as I say, I know everybody says don't talk about business, but I've had my great nephew here since the middle of March. I've been homeschooling him because his poor mother has no internet at home. She really is not well off. So I've had him, and the meals I'm making for him and every day. But I'm getting his season to A. So here you go. But so I know it's like across the board. You know, it's tough. It's tough.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Lori, maybe you could answer this question. I was looking through the revenue side of the budget, and I thought we used to have a line item in there for copier fees from the library and book dues. Is that in there, or am I just not seeing it? Or
all right, let me get on. Okay, I thought I was done. Okay, there are dues for a couple of agencies like Quiet Corner Reads membership, and of course the ACLB, the library thing. But you're asking for which type of dues now, Ray? What dues?
Overdue fees.
Overdue books.
Oh, overdue fees. Yeah, that all comes in.
Fees.
Yeah, that comes in. Of course, we did make a recommendation. I think I'm trying to think, because we have not had an in-house board meeting since back in February. But I think they were saying now, as far as the fees every day, they were going to be like, anybody who wants to pay something if you return your books. You know, it was not like a set fee every day for the fines, whatever, like this. And I know we went for our movies to be out not just a couple of days, but a whole week to let people have the movies. But yes, I'll have to, you know. Yeah, that's
what I'm looking for is, where does that money go?
It should be in special savings, I believe. Special savings come in.
Special savings.
I do, but at least I will find out, but that should say, you want to know where all the fines go?
Any money that comes into the town has to go through the treasurer.
Yes. All right. I will find out. To be sure. I don't say something that's going to be wrong, okay? Fines, all right.
Lori, are you still on? Lori Epler?
That's correct.
Perhaps,
And, okay, either Lori or Chris, do you have any idea where these dues and fines go?
Hello?
Yes, Lori.
Yeah, I haven't received any fees from the library as far as income goes.
See,
Okay,
are we supposed to
that's
send them?
yes. If you look at state statutes, it says that any income to the town goes through the treasurer. And if it then she'll not determine, then it goes wherever it's supposed to go after it goes to her. Say we had a grant come in for, I don't know, say the Veterans Memorial. Money would come into the town, treasurer puts it in the veterans line item. There's an equal expenditure line item for the revenue line item, and she transfers it to that line item. So all money that comes into the town has to go to the treasurer. And then it'll be distributed to the proper fund from there.
okay, my point to that then, that this has been thing. Christine, you mentioned that you think it goes into a special savings account.
That's what I'm getting about, yes.
Yeah, and you're gonna research that. Could
Yes.
you also bring
How
back,
much is in that special
so
savings
that's
account?
my question. How much is in that special account?
Okay, I will get that back to you to know exactly.
Yeah.
I know it's a couple of thousand, I know at least, yes, special savings. But, all right. But also, now, if people give donations though to the library, do they also go to the treasurer, or the donations are just to the library? If they want to give, like, because sometimes people say, here's some money and you can get some books.
Directly to the treasurer.
So any kind of money goes to the treasurer first?
Yes, absolutely.
Any donations, okay.
So any of those kind of accounts that you have, like maybe you have a book account, any accounts that you have that you've taken in money, I'd appreciate knowing.
Okay.
What's there.
There should be no off accounts. Everything goes through the treasurer. That way the treasurer can report to us what the status of the accounts are. And please do not take this as a direct example. But say I walked in and I turned into a millionaire and I gave you $1 million and said, go buy books. Not you, some person that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I gave them the money and they just went home and deposited it in their bank account. Who would know? Who would know?
Oh, no.
So that's what I mean. And I'm certainly not implying that that's the case with y'all, but that's why it is the way it is.
Okay. Okay. All right. This is good. I'm learning a lot. Okay. Yep.
And even grants, Ray, come into the library, they go to the treasurer who applies them to the grant line?
Yeah, Lori can answer this, but I'm fairly sure the answer is yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Any monies that come in through the state grants go through the general fund.
How about private grants? I gave $5,000 to the library one year.
Oh, thank you, Jeanette. That was wonderful. I know I did myself. That's way back. Yes, I did some thousands.
I'm not certain.
They also
On
have to go
private
to the
grants.
treasurer in that the library can't spend anything that isn't appropriated. So it all has to be in the books. There's no reason why it shouldn't be. For all intents and purposes, while a certain person was on in the legislature, they made it where money that goes in the library has to stay in the library. So it's certainly not my intent to usurp that ridiculous law, but that's where the money would end up going, but it needs to be on the books.
On the books, okay.
So it's just a tracking.
Tracking, okay. All right.
Well, that and here's another case. Say you wanted to use 23,000 to go buy books, so we fund 23,000 to go buy books.
Mm-hmm.
But then we find out you really spent 10,000 out of the special fund. So the reality is we didn't need to fund it 23. We could have funded 13, and the other 10 could have went somewhere else, or to the library. The money that the town provides to the library is the part that we have control over. But so that's just in general why everything has to be in the books.
Okay. All right.
Just one more example. The light for the flag out front. I offered to make a donation to put that light up back whenever that happened, and that's where, when I found out that it had to go through the treasurer, they have to make a special account. And only that money for that can go into that account, and then they would pay out from that account. But again, it would require an appropriation for that to happen from the Board of Finance.
Yeah. Show me this. There's a lot of paperwork, Ray. A lot of paperwork.
Oh, we are very well aware of it.
You should see my desk.
And, it almost feels like, I don't know, we had a long battle with, I hate to bring it up, but the Board of Ed to get them where they're at. And so we don't have any more major findings, and they're getting there. So now we go on to the next area that we're not getting adequate communication with. And, ultimately we need to know what is being spent where on what. That's what our job is. So, I don't know what the next area is, but I'm sure you guys won't be the last.
Well, last year we did the firehouse. We delved in a little bit deeper with the firehouse.
We did firehouse, so Board of Ed, firehouse. I don't know, there's not too many places left to pick on. So,
Oh, I've got one.
oh, geez. Anyway, let's get back to the.
Thank you, Christine.
All right, okay. So one more thing. When do you want us to come back? We have to meet as a board and do like a special, because our next meeting is not till June. See, June, our next break, because we just meet once a month. Should we do a special meeting to get back to you now on all these charges? On all
Our last item here, we're going to decide how we're going to move forward. That was kind of the intent, because we want to get in, or we had discussed, and I don't know, we voted or whatever, but we wanted to get in a quasi public hearing and a quasi town meeting into the process. And of course, it's going to be via Zoom because we don't have any other choice. But then we get into problems with, we got to get a budget passed and get tax bills out. So there's a couple of factors we have to consider, and I hope to speak to those at the end of the meeting. So, in summary, we'll let you know at the end of the meeting, or I can send you an email, one of the two.
Just a general comment. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate your information.
Thank you. Thank you.
A general comment to thank again the Board of Selectmen, the three gentlemen, and I'm sure they worked in concert with the assistants and our treasurer to come in below budget. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Jeanette. And it's really a group effort with the selectmen and Patty, the treasurer, Natalie, everyone gets involved in this process, and we all pull together to do what we can for the taxpayers and do the best that we can. So thank you.
And one other thing, whatever emails passed, I believe there was 40 in there this morning. If any additional ones have come in since, say, 4 this afternoon, I'll bundle those up and put them up on the town website as well.
I would.
Where are you muted?
Yeah, there's probably like 4 doubles in there because it's not real. You can't just say grab all the emails and print them, or grab all the emails and save them. I think what I end up doing is saving them all and then forwarding them to my email account. I don't remember what I do to get the things so I could print them out. Anyway, so there, I believe there's 4 duplicates in there, but I'd rather have duplicates than have missed any. All right, so we're still on town discussion. Anybody else have anything they want to ask the town about their budget?
Not the town. I know it's not on here, but the town does have jurisdiction over the CIP. Is the CIP staying the way it was, Chris?
Yeah, the CIP is, and I hate to use this term, but that is pretty much down to bare bones. We've got the items in there that we have to pay, so there's really no flexibility in that. And it's down, I think, 20,000. I'm not looking at the spreadsheet now, but it's down, I believe, a little bit more than 20,000 from the last fiscal year.
Well, that's without taking out the library. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that CIP has nothing to do with the library. That's CIP.
Oh, I'm
CIP
sorry.
is down
You
like
said
20.
town. You said town.
20,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
you meant CIP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess with the town budget, we're still in a conundrum what we're doing with the library and as to what figures we're coming up with. Are we left with the fact that Christine's going to get us new information to come back to you, Chris, and let us know what's going on there?
Yeah, I think that's part of what we're going to discuss here in a bit.
May I make a comment?
Who was that?
Jason.
Yeah.
Jason? Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I was wondering, the high-speed fiber line that the town uses, if I'm not mistaken, that was funded through a library grant from the state, and I think the state picks up somewhere around 68% of the annual cost of that fiber line, and this is to what the library provides to the town. And I know if the budget were cut down, I mean, I guess the only thing that could be kept would be the fiber line, but the town gains a great deal by having that high-speed fiber line, and the contract that the CEN, Connecticut Educational Network contract, that the library's under goes, or the town and the library's under goes through 2027. And if there were cuts that affected that high-speed line, there could be penalties up to probably up to about $10,000 to recoup costs for installing that line. So I just wanted to point that out, that the library does provide a great service to the town in terms of just that one piece that allows everything to happen. The website, the meeting, well, maybe not the website, but the meetings and everything. So that's all.
That's one component that needs to not be touched, you're saying?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
And that was only $2,200, so
Correct.
that's pretty minuscule.
All right, we have 2 other meetings previously scheduled. One on June 10th and one on June 17th. I recall hearing from the town clerk that she wasn't really happy about the June 17th meeting because it impacts tax bills. I haven't really had the opportunity to kind of discuss that in any detail with her. I may stop by tomorrow. But the reality is, I think that if you don't have an escrow account, odds are a large percentage of the folks that don't have them are going to utilize the deferment that's provided. I gotta honestly say, I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, there's no taxes, there's no penalty, so who gets the interest, us or them? So anyway, regardless of that, I don't really see a tremendous amount of taxes being collected in the beginning of, or by the end of July. The tax bills go out sometime the end of June. The bill dates, I think normally June 30th would be my guess. June and then January, if I remember correctly. Anyway, so I'm not feeling that June 17th date as being like a drop dead date. So, I'm open to suggestions, but what I'm thinking is we've certainly jogged public interest, which is good. I don't know if that was necessarily the intent. But anyway, I just caution what folks are passing from one to another. Christine was pretty clear about, what she had meant by what. However, you saw those letters that said 90%. And we know that's not true. So it's not true. It's not true. It's just a misunderstanding of what 90% is of. Okay. There's also some misunderstandings about what the powers and responsibilities of the Board of Finance are. I think we've been very clear about that for all the time, whatever 12 years I've been on this board, that we follow the state statutes as to how we run the budget process. And I can't say enough that I don't want to come up with a non-confrontational way to say this, but I think the process that we're going through is unnecessary, and that there are a million different ways that have been brought up in a million different places that this could have been done better in terms of how we were allowed to handle this process. I'm a taxpayer. I wouldn't like to not get my vote on the budget. Of course, I'm a Board of Finance member, so that kind of doesn't apply, but it's not fair. One way or the other, everybody pays the taxes, but we are left with zero recourse. The governor's order says the Board of Selectmen shall, and there will be no mass meetings, and there will be no town meetings, and there will be whatever. So, not to belabor the point, but we're stuck with this. And if we could drag our feet for another 6 months, maybe it would be different, but we don't have that choice either. So anyhow, what I'm thinking of in terms of moving forward would be to maintain those, at least those 2 meetings we have. So the 10th, with my recommendation would be to come back. We now know all the factors. We're going to get some input or some updates from the library board. I don't know of any other areas that we really had any questions. So we could hear those.
Ray, perhaps by then we would know what the school is returning to the town.
Yeah.
And
fine.
any CARES money and how that might affect things.
Well, the thing is, we won't, CARES, we don't know. We really don't know.
Tomorrow they're making an announcement.
Exactly. Okay, maybe. That's government.
Sure.
Anyway, and a day longer waiting for the CARES thing, it's really possible that we could hear something. So that's cool.
If we came back with the school number of what they're anticipating
oh yeah,
having returned, that would affect our revenue sheet.
the thing is, we don't close budgets until June 30th, and then we give a month for invoicing before we determine the budget's closed for transactions. So I don't know that we would be able to bank on that number until the end of June earliest, possibly sometime in July.
Okay.
But we all know that, as we go through this thing, there's a lot of ifs as we're moving through it. Especially the if of, not if, but how we're going to run our school system with the COVID thing. That's the big if in the room. Anyhow, so 10th, I would recommend us hearing responses from the library. See if we can find anything additional about the school end of year and CARES, whatever it is. Okay, and with that data, I don't think there's a whole lot to digest in those 3 areas. So I think in that meeting, we could make set a recommended for discussion mill rate for discussion, and then leave it at that until the meeting on the 17th. We can call that our
well, Ray, can
Yeah.
I ask that on the 10th, we do what the next step would be, take all the information, which is the library and the school's information coming back to us, and then we can sit down and discuss how are we going to come up with the mill.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
then that would be establishing what's gonna happen or how the money's coming out.
Yep, that's
And
that's
then we go to final.
yep, that's exactly
Put it on the,
the goal would be to come up with here is the budget we're considering
okay,
out of the meeting on the 10th.
okay,
Then everybody gets a chance to get to hear public comment from, your friends, neighbors, whatever. And then on the 17th, we come back with a public hearing. And the expectation at that meeting would be for the public to speak about the budgets and the mill rate and whatever else they want concerning the budget they want to talk about. And for us to really do nothing but listen.
okay, so at the June 10th meeting, we would still be able to ask the, 3 components to make cuts if we felt that they were necessary?
I think at that point we would be,
Because we got to figure out where the money's coming from.
I mean, if we set what we believe to be a proposal in front of people to look at, it should include how we're going to get to that proposal limit. So yes, I would assume that on the 10th, we would set that, the mill rate, budget totals for each area.
Based on our revenue balancing.
Right, and we've heard from the Board of Education, we've heard from a couple of folks that I think speak for a very much larger number of folks about the education budget. CIP, there's really nothing we can even discuss on that. And on the town budget, there's not that much to discuss there either. I mean, we're not set on anything at this point, but there's a whole lot to talk about there. So we're going to arrive at where our deficiency in terms of funding, revenue, or spending excess is pretty quick. And we only have a very limited number of resources that we can use to mediate.
But at that meeting,
mitigate.
When we do all that discussing, we can still go back and say, you need to reduce your budget by this. We can still do that at that point in time because it's still in our hands to
That would be my
balances.
That would be my agenda would say that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll add adjustments. Question mark. Okay, 17 public hearing. And then this is going to be a bit of normally we don't hear a lot of actionable things at the public hearings, but we certainly do want to have the opportunity to address them. So anyway, I would recommend another meeting, as much as I really hate doing this, on the 24th. And this would be discussion of public meeting comments.
The public hearing comments?
Yep. Make changes if necessary. And to set the mill rate. Because the reality is, the reality is by that time we've had enough meetings that we will have heard or offered the ability for anybody to be heard that wants to be heard. We'll have all the data that we need to have. And 45 more meetings aren't going to make it any easier or to make it happen.
Ray, could I comment?
Yeah, that was the end of what I had, so go ahead.
Yeah, I applaud you running these meetings, Ray. This is a terribly stressful time. So I just want to, as a board member, call out the fact that you've run these meetings about as good as could be run under the circumstances. And I know that, you and I have our moments, but I definitely want to call it out when you're doing the right thing. I think that you are, at least at the spirit of the open meeting laws, you're encouraging participation. You're making it easy. The Zoom meetings, apart from the technical issues, we're letting people in, we're letting people comment. You've got the Gmail email that you're reading the responses for. So I just personally want to applaud you for that. So I appreciate it. But I do have just the one concern is just, can you clarify where and when are the meetings being noticed? you said earlier something about town website. I just, for the folks who want to take part in these next 3 meetings, where can we look for that?
Okay, the overall schedule will be posted on the home page of the town website. I'll update what's already there. That's what's up on the screen here.
Right.
Okay. And then the agendas will be posted on the bulletin board at town hall as required. And
You had it on the BOF website
right,
page.
you go down here. I moved this up because we were at the end.
We should be at the top.
Hey, yeah. I was compromising.
Great. That's posted at Town Hall bulletin board outside the building?
Yes, sir. And I believe inside.
Can we commit to having this up 24 hours prior on this webpage?
Always have them up 24 hours prior.
Well, it wasn't today. Just to clarify, today's was not, and maybe that's a blip. I see the others on there. I haven't myself been.
Yeah, are you talking about on the bulletin board behind you?
No, I'm definitely they're on the bulletin board. I mean, for the folks who are trying not to go out if they don't have to, just commit to having it listed here on the website.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes. That I should be committed. So I will commit. But again, please look at this front page.
No, I will echo again. I applaud you for laying out the schedule. I think it's been fantastic.
In terms of an agenda, no, this is not an agenda, but it does give a pretty good description of what we intend to do here. We have not made any formal changes to any budget at this point. We've made recommendations. We've had public comment at every meeting. So it is what it is.
Thank you so much.
We'll put it up here. I will add to this additional meetings should we agree that is what we need. And what I can also do is on the agenda, based on the public hearing is all hands on deck. The meeting on the 10th, I don't know, it's certainly up to this. Yeah, I think we asked for the school board to be there, the library board, of course, the board of selectmen. So that's all hands to. 24th, I guess we share the pain. And same thing on the 24th, that we're going to come out with a number, and we're going to set a bill rate, a mill rate, and a bill date. Yes.
Can I ask you to add one thing on this, the budget process, kind of boldface it in the head, that we encourage people to write letters to such and such an email. I know you have it down there, but that will give the board members a chance to read your opinions instead of opening it up to anybody who wants to talk verbally. I mean, because you could sit here for hours on end with public comment.
I'm not going to touch that one.
All right, I already knew where you were going, but hey, hang in there.
That's it, anyway.
Just a little blurb that you're
Yeah,
welcome to your comments.
I'm trying to think of the best way to do that. To get that email address out. Unfortunately, you can't program when they're going to come in. So in this case, I'm fairly certain that there was 20 at the end of yesterday, or the 2 o'clock this morning, there was 20 messages, and at 4-ish there was, I want to say 40, but it may be 36. So it makes it real difficult to try and get that stuff out in a timely manner, because we can't really program when it's going to come in.
No, I'm not faulting the expediting of it once you get it, because if it comes in late. But if you could encourage people, friendly encouragement to say, we'd appreciate you getting your comments to us by Monday, if at all possible, so we have time to review and give honest reference to your letters.
Yeah, I will add that information to this page. I will send it in an email to board members. The whole Facebook thing, I'm just tired of it. I'm just tired of it. So I'm not on any town Facebook pages any longer, and I won't participate in it any longer.
Well, I think
so if you guys are, you certainly, anything that I send you an email is for public consumption. So you want to put it on the billboard in front of the school. Whatever, doesn't matter. So
Just don't.
I'll put it on the page.
Just don't put your email address in.
Unfortunately, all the email addresses today went out because I didn't have time to redact email addresses off all those emails. So, and then you ask yourself the question: do the people that wrote the emails want their names and email addresses redacted? I don't think they do. So anyway, all right. So back to the.
Got more important issues than that. So.
Yeah. All right. So we're looking at those 3 meetings. Does did anybody have any further discussion on what's next? And I don't know what the legal way to do this is. We do have final. Where's it at? Third here. Former hearing on our agenda. It says we're going to discuss the schedule, discuss, vote on, whatever you want to call it. We have to set a schedule. So I think what I'd like to do at this point, before we bring that to the floor for a vote, is to open the floor to public comment to see if there are any additional factors that need to be considered in that schedule. And if the board doesn't mind, we're going to kind of work on 2 agenda items at the same time, setting the schedule and public comment. All right, so the floor is open. Mike is good at explaining how to raise your hand in the thing or whatever.
You go to the participants button and then there's a raise hand button in the bottom. At least that's where it shows on mine. And then Ray will see those, I think.
I can never find that button, by the way. Yeah, I don't know where it's at. But I'm not seeing.
Anybody.
Come on, all those emails and nobody wants to speak. Come on.
Ray, I'm saying the same thing. I think that there should be other board members on, library board members or other people. So I'm waiting too. I'd like to hear, because I'm not the only one on the board. I'd like to hear what else or other people want to say about the library. So I'll mute myself, but yes.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, the floor is open for public comment. I don't even know if we put the caveat on it that you normally see that says like agenda only. It may, but
It should be, yeah.
That goes without saying. I mean, come on, what are we doing here? No comment on agenda items. I did change the time limit to a reasonable time limit. It used to say like 2 minutes or something. All right, I'm not seeing anything. So what I'd like to do is set the schedule as we move forward to modify the meeting on, this thing is driving me crazy. Modify the meeting on the 10th of June, which is a week from today, to discuss adjustments to, I'm sorry.
Making a motion?
Make a motion to set a meeting for June 10th, June 17th, and June 24th for the reasons we discussed. And I'll send the agendas out for all 3 meetings. I hope by tomorrow afternoon. And board members can certainly give me feedback, make sure that I've adequately described what we expect based on what we just talked about. And then I'll post all 3 of them to town hall website.
Seconded it.
That's a bad idea, because if you had to change something, then you're stuck. We'll post them at least a couple of days before each meeting.
Right.
Do we have a?
Who seconded that?
Can I get to that point?
Were you finished with your motion? I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Is there any discussion on that at all?
So just to clarify, 3 meetings, June 10th, 17th, and 24th.
Yep, and so, we can simplify it and say on the 10th, we're talking. On the 17th, we're listening.
Yep.
On the 24th, we're acting.
Do you foresee any reason we would have to go beyond that?
Well, schedules are only as good as the paper they're written on.
Fair enough. So if something really does need to occur, we can adjust, I guess.
I just hope there's no more meetings.
Let's hope not.
But you can always put in a special meeting, Mike, if you needed to.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
The other part is special meeting notice is 24 hours, even if it's not one that was, special meeting is not supposed to be a meeting that's planned. So, that definition basically is that it's not on the list that we sent to the Secretary of State at the beginning of the year. So because we didn't know what was going on, we got all these special meetings here. It would really be nice at some point to return to, you don't have a special meeting unless you have a special occurrence of something.
We had a really nice schedule. I'll say that. Then it was blown.
At least we had one.
We did. We had a nice schedule.
So is there any further discussion on the schedule? There being none, let's do it the easy way. Any opposed? Let the secretary record that there are no members in opposition, and for the sake of saying we did it, all members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, and I'll get those on the site. That is we'll even make double sure. One last time for public comment. If I can find the thing.
Anything to say?
Just because it's down there, and make sure that we didn't, where is the little thing? List, where is it? I don't know, you guys can see it as well as I do. Are there any hands raised or? I swear every single screen I have on this computer is on top and won't go to the background.
Oh, I think all the dogs look awesome.
That's actually a Windows wallpaper thing. It changes. We only have one pug.
Look at those puppies.
All right. So if there's no other public comment or no public comment, I'd like the motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
You missed it. Too late.
I'll signify by signing off.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
I'll think I can turn this thing off here. Stop sharing. And meeting.